Rachel here. Welcome to my Slow TV Stitchery. Well, good morning everybody. I spent a bit of time since we saw each other last, not as much as I would have liked because as it usually does, life has intervened, but I've spent a little time doing just the framework of the design so that you will actually get to see progress, because you will see the design begin to fill out, which might be more encouraging for all of us, I think. I don't think this will be done by this Christmas. I think if I was going to achieve that, I needed to pick a different pattern and a different thread and probably a different canvas. But it will, I think, look quite sumptuous when it's done, and since that's most of the point, I think I'll be content with that. At the moment I am adding the bit that doesn't change. I decided quite early that I would do the framework always the same, and this dark gingery gold, and that thereafter there will be variations in how much of the white gold and, for want of a better term, the gold. So we will see how it develops, and also how long it takes. It will be interesting to see what progress I have made by the time my camera runs out of memory and battery and cuts me off in my prime, which it has a tendency to do. I've found over the last few months while I've been doing this that, far from being a problem, that's quite useful, because it means I have a limited amount to choose between when I come to edit something together for you, so it doesn't take me quite as long as it might. Since we were last here, we've been a little bit occupied in this house because we've been running an online event, and it was great fun, but it was absolutely exhausting. We could barely talk by the time it was finished, and it's taken most of the week to be able to see straight again. Not, I hasten, from overindulgence, because neither of us does that. Just exhaustion. But the people we run it for seem to love it, and that's all that really matters. And it's no less exhausting online than in person, or perhaps I should say no more exhausting one way or the other. So I've been doing a lot of reading in my downtime, because anything else was a little bit too much like hard work. And having adventured through 15th century Netherlands with Reynard the Fox, I've been striding through Dark Age Britain with Max Adams. And it's something of an achievement for what seems to me an inveterate outdoorsman to have managed to convince me that the idea of going for a stroll in areas associated with the Dark Ages with a strapping 6-footer who's accustomed to camping out and going on multi-day walks might actually sound like fun. One of those things which sounds like fun, but you wouldn't dream of doing. If I had had a different sort of life, it would have been great fun. But I like hot and cold running water and a comfortable bed. I know that's unadventurous, but hey ho. But it was full of interest. So, as I begin to recover from the maths jam, and once this project is quietly motoring along the way I want it to, I need to start thinking about finishing touches on the Amarna family. And to borrow a phrase from my mathematical friends, this is not entirely trivial, because it's been quite a while since I looked at it, and I'm not entirely sure I know how I want to finish it. So I'm hoping that in a couple of days I'll be able to come to it entirely fresh, having essentially not seen it for a couple of months, and see immediately what needs to be done. It probably won't be that simple, but at least I will have tried. Now, I think probably one more, isn't it? So the things I need to think about from memory are the seat that Akhenaten is sitting on, and his loincloth, and the bunch of grapes with which he is teasing one of the little girls. Now, the bunch of grapes should be easy. I think I only intend to add a few little stitches, which should be just enough to... Now, that's gone wrong. It's too long a stitch. No, it's not too long a stitch. It was the right length stitch, but I started in the wrong place. There we are. I'm more concerned about the footstool and the loincloth. My recollection is that the loincloth just didn't look white enough, and the footstool, well, Nefertiti's was just dark, and I think that works better. So perhaps I have to either completely stitch over Akhenaten's, or maybe I have to unpick it. And I probably have that choice with the loincloth as well, and that's not a happy thought. The unpicking is challenge enough, but reinstating it will be a serious challenge. I'm always going to leave at least one row of the gold, so it doesn't vary as much as that, but it's just enough, I hope, to give a sort of flicker of life to the background, make it interesting in the way that, for example, the changing angles of the gold thread in Monue creates a wonderfully lively background for the Amarna family. I'm hoping that this will do the same for the angel. Although lively is not the same as lifelike, of course. This is very much a pattern of patterns. I'm wondering whether I should add some details to the angel's wings, maybe couched gold thread or something, when I've got to the end. Obviously any applied pieces need to wait until I've done all the canvas work, because you don't want them squashed. I think I may have commented with the first Ornue piece I did that overcast winter days are actually quite good for this sort of stitching. Anything with the sort of sparkle on it that gold threads have, you really don't want to be used in bright sunshine, or using a work lamp if you can avoid it. So it's grey and overcast and miserable, and I am happily stitching something bright and cheerful. Feeling very much better than I would if I were trying to twist my brows against bright sunlight and stitch at the same time. I'm no Pollyanna, but one can usually find an upside. In this case, something I can definitely say is that the process of stitching and recording is much less anxious when I have the framework already in place. I may not be able always to achieve that in time, life and all that, but we'll all see more progress, I think, in a session if I can do the framework before I do the recording. Then if I have troubles with the counting, I can concentrate on that rather than suddenly going quiet and not stitching while I count and leaving you wondering whether something dreadful's happened or whether I've fallen asleep or something like that. One of the lovely things at the Maths Jam was one of our old friends who attends saying that during lockdown, even though he has no knowledge or interest in embroidery, he was watching Slow TV, or he had it on when he was working, and it was really nice to feel that somebody else was sitting somewhere working as well. It was like sitting in a lab or something somewhere and doing your work and knowing that other people were working. And that was lovely, because that was exactly what I wanted to do and provide, that sense of something happening that you didn't need to watch closely because it didn't necessarily change, but there was something, progress was being made, and you could work along at the same time on something entirely different. So I was very pleased. It was very nice to learn that. So I put a little more framework in so that I can complete this thread, I hope. Definitely requires a lot more concentration to do the framework than it does to fill it in. One of the things I realise I haven't really got right about my random flames is that I haven't got clumps so much of the larger groups of silver. But I think, looking at the pattern, it's still sort of working, so I think I don't mind that too much. just to make note of the fact while I'm at it. There we are. It's coming together quite nicely now, isn't it? That's all for this session. I hope you enjoyed following along. Happy stitching!